can, remind me your last name and introduce yourself and what you do.
Sure, I'm Ken Greene, G-R-E-E-N-E, and I'm the president and CEO of AHOA, which is the Asian American Hotel Owners Association.
Okay. Yeah, you don't look Asian.
No, I'm not Asian, but you know, interesting. AHOA's been around for over 30 years, and I've been in the hospitality business, hotel business, for over 20. And most of the membership, a good portion of the membership, the 20,000 members of AHOA, were my customers as franchisees for my brands. So I have deep roots with AHOA, and of course I spent a portion of my career out in Asia, or in Asia Pacific for Wyndham Hotel Group. So I got a lot of passion for the cultures and the differences, and so this is sort of like coming home for me. And I'm at a stage where I'm at a good spot. I'm sort of getting back to a community that helped me when I was very young, when I first started out.
I love it. So as far as ALEC here, we're obviously here at the American Legislative Exchange Council. Has AHOA partnered with ALEC, or tell me a little bit about
so we support ALEC's efforts, and I sit on their peak advisory council for the board, you know, our interests are very much aligned when it comes to you know, state advocacy issues that are important for hotel owners, specifically, and more broader for small business owners. You know, as we're looking to fight certain battles at the local and state levels, I think there's a lot of issues that you know, members of ALEC and legislators involved with ALEC really support, you know, our points of view. Very important.
Well, let's drill down on some of those issues. Let's drill down on some of those issues.
Sure. So short-term rentals, big issue for us at the state level. Drive-by, you know, lawsuits for ADA lawsuits, been a big issue for us. But can be, you know, based on the locality of the state, could be local tax changes that would really impact you know, a property owner, specifically a hotel owner, and any changes that would have a material impact on their business. Right? And then of course, there's, you know, right here in California, it's really sort of a melting pot for all kinds of things that the legislation that gets proposed that you know, usually happens here first as a lightning rod for many different things. Some good, some bad, but many bad for business owners. So it's important for us to stay engaged, not just at the federal level, but you know, actually at the state and local level, we're probably more effective and more impactful.
Absolutely. So, are you guys a national organization?
We are. So we run. We are 20,000 members across the United States. And we represent 20,000 and they're hotel owners, and they represent 60% of the hotels in the United States. That's 60.
Oh wow!
Which is an incredible story, right? So I mean, you're talking about a group of people that really came over from India about over 30 years ago. Now, many of our members are third, fourth, and now fifth generation in membership. And they came over with very little money, immigrants that were discriminated against very early. You know, over 30 years ago, couldn't get loans, they couldn't get insurance, you know, they didn't speak the language very well, and were very underrepresented. And some people in the industry owners that had been fairly successful, bonded together, very small in the very early days. They were mostly in the economy, mid-market segments of hotels, days and super eights, this type of thing.
Yes.
Today, they own 60% of the hotels in the United States. They own 50%, over 50% of the upscale properties in the United States, over 40% of the luxury properties.
Wow.
So many of these folks, you know, 30 years ago, might have been sweeping the parking lot of their uncle's you know, hotel, just having immigrated over. Today now they own 40, 50, 60 hotels, and a huge owner in their own right. And so truly the American dream. I mean,
that's a great story.
Yeah, it really is. Yes. And so you know, the discrimination issues today for the whole members have primarily disappeared. I mean, they now are the majority in the business. You know, they employ 1.1 million people. Sort of put that in perspective, it's more than FedEx and Home million guests that stay on with us on any given night. Put that in perspective, you would fill every Major League Baseball stadium, NFL stadium, every single night with the number of guests that stay with us. And they contribute about $395 billion to the U.S. GDP, so 1.7% of U.S. GDP come from our membership. So a very impressive group. They contribute a heck of a lot to the U.S. economy. We just, in the data that I'm giving you, we just initiated a study from Oxford Economics, a third-party group, to really dig down deep to see what our economic impact really is. And so this data we have is not just at the national level, but I have it for we have it for every state, and in a couple of weeks we'll have it for every congressional district. So we can look a legislator in the eye and really say, here's what we represent in your backyard, and this is why you should be listening to us on these important issues.
So how has that process been? Have you been, as an organization, has AHOA been able to make a lot of inroads to local officials and state?
We do, and so we just partnered with the American Hotel and Lodging Association, the AHLA. We combined and formed the AHA, the American Hospitality Alliance, and that alliance includes 41 state lodging associations. And so the idea is to take the two largest associations for hotels. We're very specific on our focus because we represent solely hotel owners, right? And so but the putting AHLA, which represents many different aspects of the hotel industry, they're more Wall Street, we're more Main Street. And it's a way to look at it. We represent small business. Putting those two together with the state associations, we can use leverage not just our dollars, but our influence at the local level. What we can bring to the party are really feet to an issue. If there's an issue that's at the local level, or state level, that would impact an owner's ability to thrive, we can bring people and voices and along with some dollars, but to be one collective voice in the industry at all levels of government, really important for us.
Yeah, that's a community working together.
It really is.
Appreciate that, those collaborations. Now let's drill down even further on some of those Main Street issues.
Yeah.
I know you had mentioned earlier, there's always issues with taxes, regulation, but let's get specific. Maybe even here in California, what are you seeing are some of the battles and challenges?
Yeah, so in California, there's been a bunch of different legislation and bills proposed. There's one that happened a couple of years ago, and I'm trying to off the top of my head trying to recall what it was called. But where any employee could sue on behalf of any other employee, and there was a big landmark case. I think it was Walmart, where they were given chairs at the register. They're sitting at the register, and it was something like a $40 million payout. What they got were new chairs, and then the attorneys got $30 million. Those are the type of things that can really impact the business.
Oh, that will control business.
And so big, those are big issues. Labor, government coming in and putting, different types of requirements on labor laws that would be restricted to a property, or reporting that would be, a burden or on a business to have to report to somebody that would never really look at the report. Those administrative things, I think, those are a burden, those are pain points. So those are sort of smaller things. Again, the short-term rental issue that every state is a big issue for us. Airbnbs,
yes.
And of course, I think our viewpoint is just making it fair. They operate like a hotel. They should have the same requirements. They should have the same ADA requirements, same safety requirements. They should pay the same taxes as a hotel. They should have to abide by the same local standards demanded by the local government and operate a business, because they're not just running a room. They are running a business, and in many cases, you owners that have 100 Airbnbs in a local market, how is that any different than a remote site?
Correct.
And so, I think what we look at from our perspective is, we don't want to prevent that. Now, I'm sure there's people and citizens in local communities that would like to prevent the individual Airbnb because it impacts maybe their, the quality of life in their neighborhood. Who wants people coming in and out on a daily basis? But from a true business perspective and a hotel perspective, we just want equal,
Yes.
we'll make
And
it
this
equal
may be-
fair, it's an equal playing ground, and
Maybe it's
same
an
rules.
opportunity to remove all those ridiculous regulations and that administrative burden.
Well, that could very well be, and so, whatever the rules are, just make them the same.
Yes.
And that's all we ask for, right? And of course, if we make the rules better, then that's always a great thing, right?
Yeah. So have you, state to state,
Yeah.
California versus other states, do you, is there a difference, like even let's compare to Arizona?
Yeah, well, listen, we love every state equally. But what I will tell you is that, particularly on the advocacy efforts, there are certain states that really shine. California is one of those. So Lynn Moorfield runs the California Hotel and Lodging Association here in California. I sit on his board because they're so important. It's such a large state. Again, it's a lightning rod for a lot of issues happening at any given time. And he does a fabulous job of really creating the right local advocacy efforts. And so we will work with him, and he's part of the AHA as well. And so we will work. I can't think of a time that our interests with California State Hotel Lodging Association haven't been 100% lockstep in line. And they are a great shining example of what I think state associations can do for any industry and what they should do. There's others, Virginia does a great job, and North Carolina does a wonderful job, and Pennsylvania.
I'm sure they're great, but I was asking more on the environment of regulation and the burdens.
Yeah, I think California is really the worst. Washington State is another one that very much we see things pop up, and when we do, we want to make sure we're watching that. New Jersey is another one where there's a lot of activity happening. Oregon, you see a couple of things here and there pop up, but I would say if I had to, pick those that we keep our little sharp eye on, California, Washington, New Jersey.
Now, tell me of your biggest win in advocacy. Was there one situation with, let's say, a small, hotel owner, like of a travel lodge that was getting bullied by the government or whatever?
I used to be the president of Travel Lodge, so.
Oh, okay. Perfect. I read your mind there.
Or my bio. That's great.
Yeah. So, was there one that you could really point out as a win? And
well, listen, I think I think the best wins, quite frankly, and I'm not trying to avoid the question, but I think the best wins are the ones you never hear about. The best wins at the state and local level are those conversations being had for a bill, for a piece of legislation that's going to be proposed that never makes it into a bill, because we've heard about it up front, we've brought the right resources to bear to kill, something that would, wouldn't be good for the industry. I think, there's probably a slew of examples of things, but I think the drive-by lawsuits, those are big ones. Albuquerque, I think New Mexico, just did a great job of putting some attorneys that are serial ADA lawsuiters. I don't know a better way to say it, and putting them basically on a list that they can no longer sue in that state. I think we're seeing those are big wins, and we're starting to see other states actually continue to do that. But that was a great example the Attorney General, local business, working together on something that was an obvious, really just almost fraud. It is fraud. Working together and saying, okay, we need to solve this issue, and we need to work together to do it. And it took time, again, government and business working together at the local level to prevent frivolous things from happening that would really impact small business owners. So I think that's a big example.
That's great. I just did an op-ed on curbing lawsuit abuse, which obviously in California is a huge.
Well, it's big. California's the worst, right?
We are the worst.
Yeah, and Lynn does a really good job. They have an advocacy group that's part of the CHLA, where they have actually hotel owners can go and get an attorney for very little on money that actually fights that specific battle. So they do really. That's something you should follow up on. That's a good story.
Yeah, please absolutely connect me with that.
I will.
Because I would love to. I can build upon this.
Yeah.
Piece. And I really feel that there's not enough advocacy for business owners. I think we have a lot of people being like, for example, and this actually works. Makes a lot of sense here. Is tenants and landlords, right? So you represent landlords,
right? Sure.
And property owners. But in this state, it's so lopsided where tenants can abuse that for months on end. I'm dealing with that right now. I bought a property and dealing with a squatter.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I have the same problem in New Jersey, right? So as long as they're in, even unless you're going to move back into your home permanently, and you have to be gone for a certain amount of time, the rules, personally, where do you live?
In San Bernardino County.
Okay, all right. I used to live up in Laguna Beach, that's where I met my wife.
Oh, Orange County.
And so, those are big issues, right? And so, should the tenant have more rights than the property owner?
Right.
No.
It's a no-brainer.
Right.
But it's like we're in a society now where no one values the ownership aspect of things and can't understand what it means to be in our shoes.
That's right.
I'm not rich.
Yeah.
I work my ass off.
Right.
And sacrifice a lot of things to be able to buy a property.
Right.
So why is the government allowing someone who is not, paying rent or whatever to squat there?
Exactly. And it shouldn't happen. It's a waste of taxpayer money, our money. So those are the type of issues, and imagine as a hotel owner, having similar issues.
Yes, even worse,
and where government's telling you how to operate your business, when it's not, obviously not in the best interest of anybody, really.
Right. What do you think of those mandates on a lot of the homeless and the drug users? I think that's affecting a lot of our hotels here in.
Yeah. Not only that, I think the thing that's impacted maybe even greater is the law of anything under $1,000 of stolen is a misdemeanor, and so the damage that's being done constantly, and cars being broken into in parking lots, businesses being broken into, and as long as it's less than $1,000, it's like in a hand, and so it's almost a get out of free card, and it puts a big burden on small business owners. It prevents people from coming to certain areas where it's more prevalent. Certainly impacts, if business gets broken into. So I think those are big issues as well.
Yeah, I just did an article got published in my quite a few publications picked it up because I think the subject matter was so compelling. One of my friends is a owner of a parking lot in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So right in kind of the heart of where the Greene Hotel is.
Oh yeah.
So you know exactly that location. And obviously with COVID, they closed it, and these homeless tents popped up on the entryway to the parking lot.
Yeah.
It took him 6 to 8 weeks to get that removed, to get them moved, because the police would have moved them, the the city council wouldn't move him. He went everywhere. He's like, I can't open up my business, reopen my business for 2 months. I lost all that revenue.
Yeah.
Because, and they were there bumming power and having parties, having women over in the middle. I mean, it was just crazy.
Right.
And it's just like really highlighted how this state really bullies property owners.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does. I mean, I'll put you in contact with Lynn, because I think, you know, he can probably give you 4 or 5 really great examples of what's going on in California right now I think would be relevant to any story you have.
Absolutely.
So he's a good guy, and he's a good guy. He's a good resource for you to know.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
And you are in Georgia now?
I'm in Atlanta, Georgia.
So, you know, I hope you're enjoying the great weather here. We're the warmest in the country.
It's you know what, I miss Laguna. I tell people it was harder to move from Laguna Beach to Jersey than it was from Jersey to Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Jersey, Hong Kong.
Yeah, I grew up in Jersey, so, you know.
I used to live in Jersey City.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I know how gritty.
Oh,
Jersey is.
yeah.
It's like Kowloon in Hong Kong. It's
Yeah,
like the same.
I grew up in the north, you know, Vernon Valley, Great Gorge, actually, all the way up there. Well, yeah, but it's, you know, on cows too, right?
Yeah.
A lot of farmland, right?
Oh, I love that. And the greenery, the lush greenery there. Yeah, so, but Atlanta's beautiful. Atlanta, you get lots of fresh vegetables, fresh food.
Yeah. What's the biggest issue you're hearing right now at Alec? I mean, across the board, I mean, you have all these state legislators here. I'm curious. I mean, what's their number one
Oh my
concern?
God, it's an avalanche of issues.
Yeah.
I mean, I think through all the sessions that I've been to, I've just been hearing so much about what the Biden administration is doing.
Yeah, right.
That's affecting us on the ground level. I mean, look at our gas prices here. It's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
I mean, even when I went to other
Domino
states.
effect of decisions, sure. Yeah.
Exactly, and then, you know, obviously us here in San Diego being a military town, you know, the Afghanistan stuff has really hit to the core. So when I was doing my interview right here with Scott Rasmussen, I was surprised to hear how much that really moved public opinion.
Right.
Because I didn't think so. I saw for 2 weeks there, New York Times and WAPO and all of them piled on and covered it. Then it became quiet after that. So I said, oh, was that just a blip in the radar? But I think what he was saying is it created a lasting effect in public opinion and what people are seeing on the ground. And I don't really, you know, since I'm in the community, I talk to a lot of people, obviously through interviewing and everything. But really, it's the kitchen table issues I'm hearing that they're upset with, especially what's going on in schools and you know, this lack of respect for parents that have issues with, you know, what's being taught in schools or what's not being taught in schools, and then also the mandates when it comes to the vaccines. You know, all of this stuff. These are the issues on the ground that are most, compelling right now. And I think the business community, which provides jobs, like you said, your organization provides 1.3 million.
1.1 million.
1.1, sorry.
It's okay. We'll get to 1.3 real quick. But you know, labor is the biggest challenge that we face right now. I mean, it's a labor shortage at this point.
Yes, and I want to talk a little bit about that because actually, glad you triggered that. I have a lot of restaurant owners that can't hire no one because, you know, first of all, the unemployment costs.
The UI benefits were a detriment, and it really incentivized people not to come back to work.
Right.
I think in both the restaurant and the hospitality business, and I'll focus on hospitality, but because of COVID and because we went to almost a complete shutdown, we had to let people go, and it was the first time in our industry we had to let people go. And I think, you know, many of those employees, very loyal and been in the business for a long time, and had such passion for the hospitality industry, you know, are now looking for, if this happens ever again, what industries can I be in where maybe a little bit more sustainable and they won't have such a, you know, go from, you know, being a thriving business to close. And I think that's been a big challenge. I think, you know, the growth of Amazon, when they're hiring employees at $22 an hour, right, it's hard to compete, right? And so when your labor costs are going up by 35%, and it's your number one operating business. And so, you know, any service businesses is facing the same.
Absolutely, they're the first to get hit.
Yeah. And they're the best, you know, and the employees are very well trained. So, but then that's also an opportunity for industry, you know, for us as an industry to start to do things a little differently and reach out to different, you know, to different demographics, and really promote the industry maybe at an earlier age, to people, making it an exciting industry. You got to do a better job. So part of it is on the industry to do a better job, communicating the benefits.
But to be fair, the industry is being choked by government.
It is being choked.
On both ends, right?
It really is.
Because if you think about it, if you wanted to compare Airbnbs with hotels, we should compare hotels, the hotel industry with Amazon.
That's right.
Because Amazon gets way less regulation
Yeah.
than the hotel industry does.
Sure. And on a bailout, the airline's gonna think a lot more than hospitality, right? And so,
Absolutely.
and we're hit just as hard, right? If not harder.
Yes.
In certain respects, and so, yeah, well, I think as an industry, we've been the stepchild in many respects when it comes from, you know, attention from the government, either because of restrictive policies or because, you know, we don't get our fair share when handouts are happening that are necessary. And so, but we're trying to fight that battle hard. So.
I love it. Well, thank you for everything you're doing to advocate for Asian American hotel owners. I love that specific, so AHOA, right?
AHOA, yes.
I love it.
And if you go to our website,
yes, what's your website?
So AAHOA.com, and you can get all this data that I gave you in greater detail, all the way down to the state level right now. And then in a couple of weeks, we'll have a congressional district level, which I think is pretty cool.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
Because you can really use that probably in many different ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
A real pleasure.
Really
Thank you very much. Yeah.
AHOA.com. AAHOA.com.
You got it.